Hello, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the GameUp Africa October Meetup. This meetup is a way of bringing together the African game developer community from game enthusiasts, developers to artists to hobbyists, and also people who are curious about what the industry entails, curious to find out how the African game landscape looks like, what are the trends, what are people currently doing, what are the successes, and what are they doing to make it work. We invite experts to show us what they've been able to do, and we learn from their footsteps. We have an exciting lineup today. So let's just have a look at what to expect during these 2 hours that we're going to be together, sharing and eating up knowledge from our experts. Today, we're covering another section of Safari City, which is our flagship title at Maliyo Games, a March 3 renovation game that we've been building for a while now. I hope you've played it. It's live on Play Store, App Store. Please go ahead and give it a try. Our first speaker today will be Chenwie Asang, who is a game engineer at Maliyo Games, and he'll be covering the first-time user experience. What is the first-time user experience for a player? How should it be designed? How do you design it for it to be most effective and hook the player from the very first time that they are playing your game? Secondly, we're going to have Marvelous Akinkumi, who is a 3D game artist. He also does fine art, and he'll be showcasing the art that we have for Safari City. The buildings, how they're rendered, how they manage to capture the cities that we have within the African continent, and how to bring that about in a game like Safari City. We're also going to have another showcase today, and this will be by Mohammed Yosri Zoraidi. Mohammed is a GameUp Africa alumnus, also a member of the GameUp Africa Elite program. And as a programmer, he's tried to identify how best to improve his workflow and efficiency using AI. So he'll be showcasing his workflow of 3D character creation and animation that has helped him work his way faster as he develops his game. So I hope you have fun, enjoy, learn as much as you can, and we'll be taking your questions after each session. So please jot them down, and we'll call on you to ask your questions to our speakers after they have spoken. So first up, we have Chenwie Asang. And Chenwie, alias Kiara, is a game engineer at Maliyo Games who's been developing games for over 5 years. Kiara joined Maliyo Games from the 2022 GameUp Africa Bootcamp, and since then he has contributed to several titles within the studio. He has personally published over 12 games, including games in different genres like puzzle, platformers, card and board games, RPGs, and visual novels. Kiara's next challenge, which is more like a current challenge, is leading the level design team at Maliyo, working on Safari City, where he plays a key role in ensuring the March 3 levels are designed with the intention of engaging users for long gameplay sessions, while also balancing out the curve to ensure that the gameplay doesn't feel frustrating. Outside of work, Kiara likes deep music listening, curious what that means, writing short stories, and people watching. Ooh, scary. At this point, I'm going to invite Kiara to take us through the first time user experience design at Maliyo Games. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the introduction, Dorothy. And don't
I
worry, we're
hope
going to talk
you,
about what?
yes, I hope you
Yeah,
also talk about people watching.
yes, of course. And also maybe deep music listening and what
Eh,
that entails. So,
Absolutely. All
but
right. Thanks for joining us today. The floor is yours.
all right, cool. So, like Dorothy mentioned, I'll be talking to everyone about the first time user experience for Safari City. So basically, I'll just be going through some of the key aspects of the first time user experience in this game and what makes it a very good design. So, let us begin. Um, Again, just to talk a little bit about myself, Dorothy said a lot already, but basically, I have been at Maliyo Games for 3 years now. At the moment, I'm doing gameplay and level design for the game Safari City, and I like art, I like music, and I like storytelling. Yeah. So if you take a look at some of the games that I've built, you can see in the games gallery, Safari City is part of it. Among these games, you find a lot of puzzle games, card games, visual novels, and of course, rhythm games because I like to translate music into something that can be engaging for players to, tap on the screen and have fun. So that's just a little bit about myself, and I will talk more about the other aspects later. So moving on, the overview of this presentation, right? It will just be about covering some of the key aspects of Safari City's onboarding. And we'll be focusing on these talking points. So we'll first of all start with some small introduction, a brief preamble on what it means to say something is first, right? Especially in terms of expectations and sensitivity. And then we're also going to move on straight away into the game Safari City, just to talk briefly about what the game is all about. After this, we're going to talk about user acquisition and story and store listing, right? Because this is where we set up the stage for a first-time user experience. Without doing this accurately, you realize that people don't even get to try out your game. And then the onboarding. This is like the core of our discussion. So it's set to highlight if this game is going to be fun or not for our players. So this needs some careful designs to ensure that players don't get frustrated, there is no friction, and players are getting what was promised to them straight away. And then we're going to move on to a progression hook. So would the game be worth investing time in? It is at this point where we are trying to conclude our first time user experience by ensuring that players can see that there is a potential in this game to keep on satisfying the frustrations that led them to install it in the first place. And finally, we're going to look at the signs of a successful first-time user experience. So if you notice that you have a strong retention in your game and you can be able to validate that monetization offers are being clicked on, monetization offers are being reached, then it means that your first-time user experience was successful to a very good degree. So we're going to start again by this introduction. Let's go to the next slide. So I want to talk a bit about what I'll be using a lot in this talk. It's called the word is called first, right? And I'm sure as humans, as adults, we have all experienced various firsts throughout our journey through lives. And one of the first that comes to mind, of course, is the first time we went to school, right? You had this new bag your parents bought for you, these new shiny books, and there's a pencil that's been sharpened and ready to go. You can't wait to write on them, right? So there is this excitement to start up the new chapter in your life and make some new memories. And of course, memories you did make, right? Because I'm sure you can also recall the first time you aced your exams. And when you return home with a paper, you realize that your parents are trying to put you up a pedestal to be the next Albert Einstein. And in an attempt not to disappoint them, you're trying to hit the books all day, every day, trying to pick up whatever knowledge you can. And as a result of this, stress builds up. Like you have to meet up the expectations, right? Now, in order to try to get some help, in order to try to maybe share this burden with someone else, you can also recall the first time you got into a relationship, the first time you fell in love, right? And you realize that that ever elusive crush of yours is finally within touching distance, right? And the passions are high. You can share memories together, memories and fun. Now, why am I telling you all this? I wanted to elaborate on this point whereby we have to realize that all of these first, right, they come with something. There's a common thread tying them together. And this thread is called expectations. these experiences come with a strong degree of expectations, and it's at this period where we are highly sensitive to what is going on. The first time we go to school, we are highly sensitive for the strangers we meet. So we try to make decisions on the fly. The first time we pass an exam, we are highly active. We feel like we're on top of the world. And the first date you want to attend, you think about the dress code, you think about the cologne you wear. So all this, you're sensitive to these changes. And it is in these first initial periods where you're highly sensitive and expectant that a lot can change, that a lot of decisions can be made. And that is why it is equally important for us to tailor the very first instance that our users will use a product, right? Because it is at this period where they can make a decision. Imagine going for a date and the person that comes up to you didn't dress very well, they smell very terribly. You can already say that, all right, we chalk that up as a bad hit, right? And you quench the date. This is the same for products, which is important, right? To consider that when players install your game or when they get a new product, you only have a short window to impress them. You only have a short window to tell them that, all right, the reason why you downloaded this product is because of this. So we are giving you this to experience. Now, why do I say product? I wanted to allude to the fact that a first time user experience is not only restricted to a game, it's restricted to a product because that is what you're trying to sell. A game is a product, but there are other products like softwares and stuff. An example of this is Chrome, right? Google Chrome. You get a browser because you want to surf the internet. As soon as you install Chrome, this is where they take you. They take you to the window where you can search anything you want. And then there is this extra pop up at the right hand corner. This helps for you to sync in your data if you're a returning user. So Chrome has this really neat way of ensuring that for new users, you're taken to the window where you can immediately do what you downloaded the browser to do. And for all users, you can immediately pick up from where you left off. This is where first time user experience is all about. This is what it's all about. That is the key. You're trying to bring the user to the core of what they got the product for as soon as possible. Because imagine you get the browser and it starts taking you through all of these bizarre screens, all these features, and you realize that you're spending 5 minutes without even going to where you want to search the internet. A lot of people will drop it straight away and get to what they're used to. Right. So you want to maximize the time that you have. Right. Now, how does it translate to a game? The game follows the same pattern. When you download a new game, it's because you've seen that this game things that you wanted to explore. So when I get this game and I come into the first screen, second screen, the third screen, and it's not taking me to where I want to be, I will drop the game. Right. So this is what I mean by you're selling the product. You have to ensure that what the user is getting from the very start is what they were promised. Right. So now that we realize that it is important for us to leverage these early minutes as best as we can to ensure that users don't drop off because we're wasting their time, let us look at some of the tricks or some of the ways that Safari City did to um, keep its first time user experience in the top tier. So let us begin our investigation of the game Safari City. How this will go about is we investigate each section. So at the moment, we're now in the second section where we're talking about the game. Each section will investigate and see if it answers or try to answer the questions that have been asked here. So, what is Safari City? For those of us that don't know about this game, right? Safari City is again one of Maliyo's flagship games, like Dorothy mentioned. It is one of the best products from Maliyo Games as a whole, and straight away you can tell the game has exquisite art, right? There's a strong development team behind this ever-evolving game to establish it as one of the big releases in the continent. To talk briefly about this game, you get to renovate buildings, you play exciting puzzles, and you follow an intriguing storyline that evolves through episodes. So the purpose of all of this is for you to re-establish or restore a once ruined city to its boisterous nature once again. You play the role of a young girl called Kera, and to guide every artisan to restore the beauty of Safari City once more. Now, let us move on to how users can be acquired for Safari City and the store listing of this game. Because again, this is where we set up the stage for our first time user experience. This is an important step. You can think of it as stage zero of the process because without this process, you're already staring down the barrel of defeat for your experience. So again, this is not like the key part of our presentation, but I just wanted to let you know that users come from somewhere. And there are two ways you can go about getting users. You can either get them through an organic means, and organic means will bring to you high quality users and users that will last a long time in your game. And then there is the non-organic acquisition, right? So this is where you use things like you leverage the power of all of these Google ads and stuff, and they are paid for. So this is how users get into the game. So you don't just download the game, you publish to the store, and you expect people to download. No, it's like opening a shop and you don't tell people about the shop. You expect them to come and buy from you. No, you have to put the word out there that something's going on. There's in this neat offer I'm doing here. There's this neat things I'm selling. There's this really awesome game that I've built. So come and give it a try. This is how you acquire users for your game. Now, once you've acquired these users, you have to present them the promise. So you told them that you have this really nice thing that you have to give them. When they come to your store, they expect to see these things, right? And as you can see here, this video is showing us some of the things that we're promising the user. We're promising them buildings. We're promising them this really neat art. And from the store listing, you can also play a video to see some of the things that you can expect when you get into the game. Now, if you're satisfied with what you've seen, you can go ahead and hit the install button to install the game and try it out. Now, this store listing is for the Google Play Store. We also have a store listing for the Apple Store. And as you can see here, we also run events for Safari City. So the store will also tell you that, all right, there is this really nice event going on. In this case, Nigeria's Independence Day. You can log into the game, you can participate in this event and earn amazing rewards. So your store listing holds a lot of power towards bringing users into your game, because when they get there and they see what they like, that's when they can click the install button to try out your game, because you have promised them something. Now they want to see if this promise has been fulfilled. I would like to point out that for your store listing, some of the key things you should take into consideration and you should try to leverage is your art, your short clip videos, and your descriptions. So if you make the best use of these things, you will notice that you get optimal results for store conversion rates. Now, let us move on to the next part, which is the onboarding. So what happens after the users have downloaded your game and they come in to see what it's all about? The core of our talk. So when the users get your game and they come in, the first thing they'll meet up is the loading screen, right? After the splash screen, after the logos and stuff, the first thing the screen they see is the loading screen. Now, you have to remember that this is a game and the game has to be fun. It doesn't have to be something that you're just trying to showcase everything your need art and all of the rights, right? They don't want to see all of your need art all the time. So this is a game. It needs to be fun. It needs to be playable straight away. And that is why, even though we have this really nice loading screen, it is important that you don't waste time in your loading screen when it comes to your first time user experience. Because if you waste too much time, the players will think that, all right, this game, I'm not ready for it yet, right? It's too long. I don't want to waste too much time. They can't go about their day. So it's important that whatever you're trying to load up in your the first time the user turns on the game is relevant only for the core loop, like what you want the player to experience as the core loop of your game. So if it is something that has to do with every back end where you're loading leaderboards, you're loading extra features, save it for when the player has gone through your onboarding. At this moment in time, you're trying to take the user to only what is relevant towards what was promised to them. Now, another reason why you don't have to waste too much time in loading screen, because each time the user opens up the game, they will still see your loading screen. So you don't have to feel bad about going through your loading screen fast, because it's not relevant again at this point. Now, after the loading screen, what comes next? You have in Safari City, it's the renovation loop. So we promise players that they'll be renovating buildings in this game, and they'll be seeing some amazing properties coming to its exquisite beauty. So when they get into the game, the very first thing we show to them is their very first action of renovating the game. After which we ask them their name, such that they can now be immersed in the storyline. There are also some other technicalities why we get the name to save their data and to also keep track of their occurrences, right? But the most important thing to note here is the renovation loop. So we introduce the player to how to renovate their property. Now, after the renovation loop, we take them to the next loop, which is how to play the mastery game. Because in order for you to progress, you have to play this mastery. Playing this mastery will give you something called keys, and you use these keys to renovate buildings, right? So this mastery will also have to teach the player how to play it, and this is where they have like the fun explosions and stuff in the game, as you can see in the video, right? Now, after they have played this mastery, we now take them to um, the call of the game. Like we highlight everything as a whole. So you earn keys to renovate buildings, and when you renovate buildings, you progress. So by the end of the onboarding, we let the player know that you have to collect these keys. It's important because you need it to renovate houses, and this is how you progress. Without progression, the user will have no reason to stick around because they don't know what they are to do in the game. That is why it's important for you to take the players through the core loop as quickly as you can. And then there's also an important thing that you can't afford to miss in your onboarding, and that is called an early win. So when the player is going through your onboarding, they have played the core loop the very first time, you have to reward them with something. This reward will keep them engaged enough, will keep them motivated because they feel like, all right, I'm making progress here. When progress is rewarded, it gives extra motivation for players to keep on playing your game. And that is why when you play Safari City, you notice that it doesn't take you more than 8 minutes, at least, and most, sorry, 8 minutes for you to get your first property restored. Because we realize that it is within these first 10 minutes that we have to engage the user and keep them actively playing the game and progressing. So we have to set this milestone early on to ensure that the players are motivated. Now, we have to also note that without progression, your first time user experience is incomplete. So, when I say progression, what do I mean in case of Safari City? This progression is what is now linking your core gameplay to the user's to the promise of the user. So that promise that you promised them and the core gameplay that they are playing, there is this link that exists between them. This link is called progression. In order for you to achieve this promise, you have to keep playing this core loop and progress to realize it. So that's how it works. Now, let us look at how the progression for Safari City looks like. In Safari City, you progress through episodes. So when you complete a house renovation, you're shown this really nice cutscene, and the cutscene will um, take the story to the next level. When you've experienced the story, you move on to the next house. The next house is where you now engage in the process all over again. The core loop, right? The core loop is what you're doing all over again. Now, experiencing this core loop will facilitate the story further as you progress. Then, when you progress, you also meet new characters because these characters are what builds the story. So, in Safari City, in the world of Safari City, there are a lot of characters involved, and each character has their own purpose. They have their own ambition. They have what they want to achieve. And by going through the storyline and progressing the game, you get to experience these stories, which is what was promised to you on your store listing page. So the progression generally, it tells the user if it is worth investing their time in this product, in this game. For those who love mastery games, or for those who love the mastery aspect of the game, we also have puzzles, new and challenging puzzles for them as they play. So you're not only progressing with regards to the storytelling for our story lovers, you're progressing with regards to the mastery puzzles for the people who love the action. So as they play the game, they unlock more exciting puzzles and they can witness these challenges that they try to overcome. You know, there are others where when you play a game, if it's challenging enough, what you want to do is to overcome these challenges. And once you succeed, you get this rush of happiness and it pushes you to play more. And then finally, we also let the users know that when you're progressing, it's not all hell and all of this, right? So we try to give you breaks in between and to also facilitate your progress as best as we can by offering these things called mini games and events. By engaging in this, you can easily progress through the levels. You get these nice rewards, and you don't have to stress as much as you would otherwise. So these are extracurricular activities, you could say, that will also aid in the progression. You can think of them as gameplay meta. Now, after the progression is done, I wanted to emphasize on the point about playtesting because when you are establishing your progression and your core loop, it doesn't always come easy, right? Because as you're developing these things, you have to ensure that they meet the standard, they meet the criteria of the promise that was made. And without testing with real life players, you will never know these things. So this process of first time user experience, building and design is not just a one shot thing. You're doing it iteratively. So when you do it once, you send it out for testing. Once it has been tested, you ensure that, all right, some of these things that cause friction is as smooth as possible has been fixed. So what I'm talking about is the benefits of first time user experience playtesting, right? So when you playtest regularly with real users, you get to fix these issues. You get to ensure that you're identifying the drop off points and the frustrations early on and fix them. You also get to ensure that you're uncovering any UI or UX issues. You make sure that there is no technical friction. You also calibrate the difficulty of the game. Because, for example, when you're building mastery levels, you may play it and think it's super easy for players. But when you push it out there, you realize that players are getting frustrated. They complain that, no, this level is too difficult. Like, I've retried multiple times and it's not enough. I'm going to drop it, right? So it is because of this playtesting that you can discover this issue, and then you can now go back and redesign the level to make it such that players can easily get through them. And then, of course, you have to find out any other hidden issues that you could not see when you were developing the game, right? So this playtesting will help you uncover those because you know how you play the game as a developer is different from how actual users will play your game. As a developer, you may be playing and trying to discover some particular bugs that you fixed, but for other users, they're just playing the game as if is a release, right? They're playing it without any of this in mind. They're just trying to get their experience. So in the process of doing so, they may uncover things that you could not find out. So when I say feedback's importance, I wanted to highlight now this point visibly in terms of Safari City. You'll notice that Safari City has undergone a series of feedback loops, and it has led to some evolutions in the game. This is how our house and renovation scene looked before, and you can see that there is a lot going on the screen. Some of the buttons are all unlocked. You don't know what to go to next. So there's not this gradual release of like features that will prevent the user from getting distracted, right? So everything is just open. The user can skip playing the mastery to explore something that may not be relevant at the certain point in time. You don't want that. What we did for our evolution through feedback is that we are only unlocking things as they become relevant to the player. So, for example, you don't change your profile picture when you're not yet prepared for it or when it's not yet important because we want you to focus on what was promised to you, the onboarding. You don't engage in the lucky wheels, you don't engage in all of these episodes and stuff because they are not yet open to you. So what we want to do is we keep these things separate from the core gameplay. Once you're done, once you've gotten used to the game, we now bring it to you. This will help to reduce friction and the complexities of your first time user experience. And then secondly, we also use feedback to improve our match 3. We realized that players found the match 3 to be too difficult, to be too slow, to be not fun in general, right? And when they won, they couldn't really get that satisfying feeling. Like, imagine going through a really tough match 3 level, and then when you win, all you get is a simple congratulations message, right? So the feedback we received was that we don't appreciate players' efforts enough. Now, what we did to refine this is we made sure that, all right, when you win, we really show you this character coming up to celebrate with you, these fancy explosions, this confetti all around, and, you know, to make you feel happy about your success. So this is some of the things that feedback can help you. And there is no way a feedback can make your game worse, right? Especially good feedback. Feedback is rarely there's a rare chance that feedback will make your game worse. It always makes it better. So I would advise you take every feedback you can get in the process of building your game and not after. Take it in the process, right? Not after the process. So once you're done with setting up your first time user experience and you have applied all of these tips that I mentioned, how can you tell if your first time user experience was successful or not? In your first time user experience, as the players are playing the game, they will need a reason for them to come back to the game. It's like you've gone for the first date, right? If the girl or the boy you're talking with shares a lot in common with you, you had a very good time, you can't wait for the next date, right? This is the same for our first time user experience. What you want to do is you want to ensure that every feature you're presenting to the player, every neat thing that you're showing this player is something that will remind them that, all right, this game is quite fun. So I will come back tomorrow to play it, right? Or this game, it cares about me. And because it cares about me, I will give it my time. What we do for Safari City is we bring these things called daily rewards. So we let the user know that, all right, as you're playing these levels, if you come back tomorrow, we'll make it easier for you to progress by giving you this really nice thing, right? So by presenting this to user, you realize that you get good retention in your game if they are satisfied with their onboarding. Now, given that because the user is playing the game for the very first time, it is very important for you to set up these push reminders, these push notifications, because they may forget. They are not yet used to the habit of coming to the game daily. So you're giving these push notifications to your players such that they will say, I forgot to play Safari City today. Let me get back to it. I miss Kewa, right? So let's get back and see how far we can go today and progress. Another retention feature you could also leverage is your lucky wheel, right? So this feature gives the user a new opportunity to get a really neat bonus by spinning a wheel that gives you a free try daily. So by coming daily to spin this wheel, right, you get this chance of winning something big. And because of this promise, this gamble of winning something quite nice, it gives the user the motivation or the ambition to come and win. And by coming in to win, they'll facilitate their progress. So this feature will help you to push your audience to always think about the next step of the progress and how to make it easier for them. Now, what other thing can highlight the success of a first-time user experience? When you've played a game and you're satisfied with the experience so far, you are happy with what has been presented to you, then it is a good time for you to bring about your first monetization offer to the player. Because, of course, the game's business goal is to make money, right, for every game you're building. And once you've ensured that the player is satisfied with your experience, they can now ask the question of, is it worth investing my money in this game? So is it worth paying for? If the best time to ask someone for favors is when they are happy, right? And if throughout all of this process that you've implemented, they are happy with the results, then you present to them their first time user experience or the starter offer, they can easily buy it, right? Because they're satisfied with the experience and they're willing to give something to further progress. And of course, that isn't always true, right? Because you can be happy, but you don't have the means of paying and so on. But this is the best point for you to leverage your monetization goals. And of course, this presentation is not about monetization. I just wanted to touch on the fact that when you're doing your first time user experience, it's also good to think about the next time to bring about your monetization feature. You don't want to bring it too early on, otherwise, it will discourage users. They'll think that, all right, this game is just trying to make money. But when they are satisfied with the experience, that is when you can think about bringing in the offers to get users to pay for. The same goes for the shop, right? Before bringing up your shop, you have to ensure that, all right, the players are well settled in, they are satisfied with the experience so far, so we can show them how they can accelerate their progress by bringing in the shop with all of these neat offers. So yeah, just to talk a bit about the summary of what we've gone through so far, it's just preparing the stage for a good first-time user experience. You have to prepare the stage so you acquire the right users. Imagine you're acquiring a user that doesn't like puzzle games to come and play Safari City. There's a very high chance that they'll drop off because you did not acquire the right users. So getting the right users is very important. And then you also have to set up your store. You also have to set up your shop. When user comes to the shop, they want to see what they can get. And when they see what they can get, they will try to engage. This is when we bring about our core. This core needs to be smooth, clear, and without friction, because we want to quickly, in this sensitive period, this period of expectation, this period where the user wants to see if you've fulfilled your promise, we want to make sure that they get through it as soon and as fast as possible. And then we want to hook them. So once they are satisfied, or once they've gone through this core loop, through this core, we want to hook them with our progress. We want to hook them with what will be worth their time by bringing to them the progression. And then finally, we want to link that progression to whatever it is we are giving them the next day, the retention, what they need to come back. And then finally, we want to validate. Validation simply means, are you satisfied enough to pay for this game? Are you satisfied enough to give something to the developers? So that is how the best way to go about the first time user experience, and it is precisely how Safari City went about it. So yes, that will be the end of this talk. And if you have any questions, I will I'm more than willing to dive deep in to answer them. Back to you, Dorothy.
All right. Thank you so much, Kara, for the lovely presentation. Very practical as well. We're going to take questions now. So if you have any questions for Kara, type them in the chat and I'll read out to him to respond to this. In the meantime, as we wait for questions, Kara, somebody had asked about, had commented on the icons of the game being so clean. And I'm curious, what role do you think UI UX plays in the first time user experience?
Yeah, that's a very good question, right? Because without a clear direction of where the user needs to go next, or without a clear intuitive guide to what the user needs to do, they'll be lost in your game. Which is one of the reasons why, for the first time user experience of Safari City, if you look at, if I can quickly go back to the renovation scene, you will notice that the players, all they are being shown is, just a minute, please. Let me rush back there real quick. And real quickly. Okay. All right, good. So you notice that in this screen, you will find it to be quite empty, right? Because we want the users to focus on what is relevant at that moment in time. So one of the best ways to leverage the power of the experience of the users to make it better is, firstly, you hide what is not relevant at that period of time. So if you're showing them about renovation, take away everything that has nothing to do with renovation and bring in only when they become relevant. So this is how you are tailoring the experience to ensure that users are not lost in all of the multiple icons that they can find on the screen. This is something that massively multiplayer online RPG games used to suffer from in the past. I don't know if you've played any of those games, but when you download games like there's this 5 on 5 games, MOBA, right? Mobile online, you see that there are a lot of things going on in the screen. And in the past, they never really established any first time user experience for them for these things. And a lot of users used to quit these games because they prefer the games that are simpler. So that is why you want to ensure that for your UI, they only come on when it's relevant, and it is only necessary for the player's progression to realizing their core loop, or to realizing what they came about to experience in the game. So that is one of the major roles that a good UI and UX would play. The second that I would say is, you want to ensure that it is as clear and readable, clean as possible. So the user needs to see at a glance where they are clicking on, what they're about to do, what this will bring up. You don't want to say that, all right, when I click on something that looks like a home icon and it's taking me to level select. No, you want that the home icon should take you to home, such that it's easy for you to recall and it's easy for the players to understand. So that is some of the things that you have to take note of when you're building your UI.
All right, thanks for that. Because actually, games when you download and then there's everything that is getting thrown at you, and you're trying to explore, but then it gets confusing because you're not really sure what to go for first or what to go next, what affects what.
Hmm.
So it's a great thing to consider that. And maybe a follow up for this before we take the questions that I'm seeing on the chat. When you're designing for different player types, because you have people who are beginners, people who like playing casually, and then there are those. That are hardcore gamers. So they'll most probably know how similar mechanics work, and they don't need that much hand holding and guidance within the game the first time they're experiencing your game. How do you consider that? How do you design a first time experience that fits them? And do you determine beforehand what your game, who your game is for, and how you design it for these different player types?
Okay, I'll answer the first question. So you do have to take into consideration the users that you're building the game for and your experience for. And if you can recall what I mentioned for the Chrome example, right? You notice that for their first time experience, they took you to a screen that has the search icon, sorry, the search bar, and also the pop up where you can restore your progress. What is key to take from here, especially when you're building your game's first time user experience, is that there are certain features that you don't need to restrict the player into doing. You can just cue them in. So, for example, if it's a feature that is absolutely necessary for the progression of the game, for example, how to renovate, right? That is necessary for you to force the player to go through the process. Even if the player is an experienced player, it is a new game, right? So they need to see how it's being done in the game. You can show them this. However, for other features like pointing them in the right direction of where to click on to renovate, you don't have to force them all the time that they need to do this. You can just use visual cues like a hand pointer. You can just use visual cues like a small pop-up, right? That shows them, hey, you have no more keys left to go. Play a mastery level to get more keys. This way, you're not forcing the player to play the mastery level. You're just cueing them in that, all right, they needed to play mastery level, right? Because they know that, all right, in order for me to progress, like in Homescapes, I need to play mastery. Like in Royal Mash, I need to play mastery. So in Safari City, you don't need to force them again to do the same thing. You just cue them in that, all right, this is just a friendly reminder that you need to do this. So what I would say is, as you're building your first time user experience, what you should consider to lock are the core features of the game, that what is relevant for the experience. What you don't want to lock and you're reserving for an experienced player, right, are some of these features that serve mostly as reminders and add-ons, right? Especially when it comes to games, because with games you can't really always be certain that the player will know what to do. So you have to give
Sure.
these constant reminders and cues, especially early on. So I don't know if that answers your first question. For the second one, which is about building the game and taking into consideration early on these users, certainly you have to take into consideration the target audience you're building the game for. If you're building for a grandma, for example, you have to be certain that for everything that a grandma needs to do, you have to guide their hand, right? It doesn't matter if they're an experienced grandma or not. No, you have to guide them throughout the process. And with this audience in mind, you now come up with your design pillars, right? These pillars will guide you towards how you can build your game's features. You have to stay within these boundaries. You don't have to go too far. These are some of the benefits of these pillars that will help you in building your first time user experience. And yeah, I'm sure that answers the questions, but if not,
Yes, yes. Thank you for that. We're gonna take one final question, and this is from Hadi. So he's asking, how do you handle doing tutorials for the first guided level? Is it in the real fast level or a separate scripted tutorials in?
yeah, so for the first level, you have to tailor it, right? So you're actually trying to build the experience how you expect the players to go about it. So it's both scripted and actually it is scripted all throughout, right? Because you position, for example, let's use the example of the mastery level. You have to position where the fruits are. You position how the cascades will happen, because As a result of these cascades, you're trying to guide the user's hand towards a certain action. So when you make a match and it cascades and form this rocket, you're trying to let the user know that, all right, when this happens, you get a rocket. So for these initial levels, you have to script them such that the players will get used to the game's operations, the game's mechanics. Because if you don't script them, they may go off course, right? And by going off course, they may miss something that they needed to know. That's why it's important for you to ensure that when you're building tutorial levels, it should cover up what the players need to know for that particular tutorial at all times, at every instance. So if they play the game the first time, the second time, it should behave exactly the same way when they make the exact same actions. Because that is when you're bringing to the player, you're bringing that call to the player, you're teaching the player how to play your game. Think of it like math, right? In order for you to solve these inequalities, you first have to understand what the symbols mean. So if you don't tell the player what the symbols mean and you're giving them the inequalities to solve, they wouldn't know that, all right, if you divide by negative, you have to revert if it's divide both sides by negative, you have to revert the signs and all of these things. So it's important for you to make sure that you script the tutorial levels.
Okay, thank
I
you
don't know
so
if you
much,
answer.
Kara.
All right.
Yes, thank you so much, Kara, for answering that and for the session. That will be our last question in the interest of time. But if you have any further questions to Kara, you can type them in the chat and Kara will be responding to you in the chat.
All right. Great. Thanks for
All
listening,
right.
everyone.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing your insights on the first time user experience. We're going to move to our next session today, which is a showcase. As I said, we have two showcases today. And the first one we're going to have is by Marvelous Akinkumi. And the Marvelous is a 3D artist, among other skill sets with experience on projects such as Fire City. He's also a colleague of the GDG OAU game dev community, and he's been involved in game jams, creative collaborations, and community building. He's a fine arts student as well, and he combines design, artistry, and interactive media to create engaging visuals and immersive experiences. He continues to sharpen his skills in creating visually striking and engaging experiences like the art that you will see in Safari City. So Marvelous is going to take us through his workflow, his processes, and how he's able to create visually accurate buildings and environments within the Safari City game. Welcome, Marvelous.
Yeah, hello. Good
Hi,
afternoon. Hope you mentioned. I hope you can hear me well.
we can hear you loud and clear. The stage is yours.
Okay. So yeah, so I'm going to take you through the process of creating the proxies in Safari City. Um, First of all, yeah, so it's basically from the concept stage to the final in-game visuals. So yeah, so start with basic foundations. The and that's the art side. So basically for anything art related, you need to have a style. The style we choose for Safari City is it's something simple and stylized. So we focus on shapes and colors that are easy to read and they feel welcome. They feel welcoming enough. So we did not want to go for a so hyper realistic look because our audience are casual gamers, so we want them to feel interested and feel um gingered by what they see through the colors, through the textures, and through the general shape of yeah, our proxies. So it's also worthy to note that the proxies are inspired by the African sceneries and African building. So basically, through all the episodes on proxies you see in Safari City, there are stuff that you can liken to your African environment. So It might be in, let me say, in the village parts of, or the more advanced parts. So, but the general overview is having these buildings, having these properties which are inspired by the African environments, but also being able to translate them to readable, to a clear, readable, and strong, yeah, property. So, the process of building the proxies is also driven by narrative and tasks. So for every episode, you have like a set of tasks that you carry out on the building, and so yeah, so I take into consideration this set of tasks, and I build the proxies with relation to this. So you get more information on this as I go on. And yeah, we use it to read it to the workflow, which basically means that we design process in 3D, but the final outlook and the final project is in 2D. Yeah. So I'm quickly going to jump into the tools that I use in building properties. So we have Photoshop, which is mainly for concepts, for layouts, for college. We do have concepts, and we have paper and pen, and then you can go into Photoshop and have a more detailed outlook of what you're going for. And like I said, it's also dependent on the narrative. So our concept is driven by whatever narrative we're going for. And then, yeah, we use Blender for the 3D modeling. And basically, for anything 3D, we use Blender. And Substance Painter for colors, for textures. And yeah, and the final look, and animation and testing are done in Unity engine. So I'm going to take you through the proxy design process, and I would be focusing on the building to take you through all these processes. I've streamlined it into just this um five options, and yeah. So we have the research and mood goals, yeah. So yeah, we I do like to go wide into researching and creating having mood boards that follow. This serves as references, and they guide the way that we approach the property. So it's you have say a narrative document, or you have a task list that basically highlights everything that goes on in the episode, and through the building renovation process. So via that you can gather the mood boards and references that you need. So the image here um is a concept as for the for a restaurant. This is going to be episode 7. Yeah, episode 7 of Safari City. Yeah, so this and you can see looking at it's a very detailed concept image that touches on textures, it touches on the structure of things, it touches on basically everything needed to easily understand and walk through the property. So yeah, so having set up the concept, having set up various references I can go through regarding shape, regarding color, regarding textures, or just a general overview. Then you move on to block out. So yeah, so the blocking out stage basically involves using different shapes to get the proportions, get the proportion of our estate. So for all our buildings, we have a consistent estate size, and yeah, w- depending on how big or how wide, or yeah, how crazy we want to go, we all do this within the estate sites, and it's to make it consistent, and it's also, yeah, to make it consistent across all the various levels. And so, yeah, you start with blockouts, understanding the proportions, making sure that things fits well, and you understand where I need to put things or not. And yeah, this goes through various feedback process of reiterating and fixing and updating. Yeah. So when you have after the blockout stage, then we move into more detailing. Yeah, more detailing. Yeah. So that is adding the various elements that would actually be renovated in the building. So yeah, looking at the image on screen, we have elements like the garden chairs. We have the chairs at the front of the building. We have the doors. We have the lampstand, and also I start creating each of these elements. And it's also what to know that each of these elements have their own variations. So now they might be texture or color variations, or they might be structural variations. So this is also dependent on the narrative. So yeah, so basically everything we're doing the proxy innovation is very and highly dependent on narrative and the task progression. Um, so yeah, and let me say when um I'm being satisfied, or yeah, when I'm satisfied on the general detail, I have my variations ready, and I have just like the general polished level, then I can go into texturing. So and like I said, I texture we texture in Substance Painter. Yeah, we also texture in Blender, but Substance Painter for the major texturing work. So um like based on the stylized art style of the game, we do like to keep things simple and clear and visible enough for the player. So uh the textures are also um highly, yeah, not so saturated, but like the pop out and the actual interest the player and are readable. So we also like to implement, I mean, add some African elements to in the texturing process. So it's not just plain board. We have some icons, we have some patterns. For example, the pattern on the top of the building here. So we do like to incorporate some of these elements as they make the building and the property more interesting. Like okay, I mentioned that we have variations for each of these properties, for each of the elements in this property. So for the bar, you can see like three, yeah, the three variations three color variations for a bar. So we give the player the ability to choose from any of these variations depending on what they're going for the building. So yeah, these are just some more so like yeah, you go through more detailing, more texturing, um, more feedback sessions, and correcting and making updates. So, and also in Safari City, the innovation process, you basically start from the dilapidated states to the renovated state. So, this is an outlook of how the renovation test state looks like. So, okay, so for let me say for yeah, for my workflow, yeah, I do prefer to start from building like yeah, from the lookout. So once I have the general shape, I can and have the details in there, so I can go ahead to build up the updated state. So it's basically destroying stores and adding all of these worn out elements, which are also dependent on the narrative, like I mentioned earlier. So uh, yeah, so once all these assets, you go into exporting, yeah, and optimization. So basically, I'm sorry, this is a video. Is it playing? I'm not sure it's playing. Okay. Um.
No, the video is not playing. What we can see is a stationary image.
Oh. Okay. Hold on. Let me try and yeah. Um. Yeah. How about now?
Still not playing.
Okay. Fine. Okay, I was sharing the process via the video, but okay, yeah, so it's basically arranging stuff into collections. You're arranging your the various variations based on color, textures, or structures. You are arranging them inside Blender, and uh, yeah. So when I have those sets, then the the process of exporting into 2D is basically taking each of these elements, each of these building parts as a single image. So I'm not sure if yeah, based on those who have knowledge of Blender, so you enable just this single collections or images as yeah as for render, and so you export this basically. So I also make use of shadow catchers, which helps to um, which helps the optimization part of the process, because you basically don't want your layers to overlap. So using shadow catches, which is an input to Blender, basically helps to prevent that overlapping. So basically when I have my wall building part exported as a 2D image, the variations, the styles, and maybe any other part I need. And yeah, we basically have these outputs. Okay, so this is just a still render from Blender. Yeah, but you basically have this whole setup inside Photoshop. So yeah, like I said, you export this building parts from Photoshop, sorry, from Blender, and yeah, they are all 2D images. So you bring them into Photoshop as layers, and so yeah, these layers are then arranged from renovation to dilapidated state. So the way I go through it is start from the base layer. So the base layer being the floor. So I layer as start from say the cemented floor and then the various variations for the floor. So that's from ranging from the three variations for the floor in the renovated state and then dilapidated duration of the floor. So then start building on this and basically following the building parts that go after each other. So yeah, and then in Photoshop we do like cleaning up, refining, yeah. If I notice that oh this a part that does not layer well or like it's caused out, then you go back to Blender, then you resport. I mean, make those changes and resport from Blender, then bring it back to Photoshop. Yeah, so that's like basically the work process in Photoshop. Um, and yeah, I, yeah, I think this is the wrong slide. Yeah. Mm, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just want to. Yeah. Oh, actually, I think I got a video to play now. So this is just an example of how you expose each of the building as a single image. And yeah, and this is just like showing the various variations which are layered on top of each other. Yeah. And yeah, also the work process in Photoshop is also in the essence of preparing for animation. So each of these layers must be put in a way that they are cut like into probably small layers of the same object in order that it can be animated seamlessly. So once this is done and ready, then you take it into Unity as a PSV, and the animation is done in PS inside Unity. Yeah, I won't be touching on the animation aspect. So yeah, the quick summary of the work process is, yeah, the work process of building the properties is dependent on narrative, and we go for a stylized um art style, which tells the stories, and yeah, it's inspired by the everyday African life and buildings and sceneries. And yeah, we try to keep each of the building parts or the props in general as simple and clear as possible, so that the player understands what they are renovating, and they do get a sense of satisfaction, yeah, from the work renovation process. And yeah, thank you for for your attention. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Marvelous. This was an interesting session. Let's have questions. If you have any questions for Marvelous, please drop them in the chat. Marvelous. Joseph is asking, on average, how long does it take you to complete your work for it to be integrated into the game?
Yeah, so a property, I would say on average takes about a month to complete. So from the concepting to the to bringing to Photoshop, bringing layers to Photoshop takes about a month to complete.
Can you say that again? Is that for one building? Can you quantify
Yeah,
that?
okay, yes. So just for one building on an average scale, it takes about a month to complete. So from the concept stage to building the properties, that's the renovated and dilapidated state, takes about a month. Um, yeah, it's also dependent on the task progression. So, like the available the building parts that are available in the property. So, sometimes it could go further than a month, say a month and a half, no, a month and 2 weeks. Yeah, something around that um, time frame.
Okay. Stephen is asking, can you list the tools again, please, the ones that you use?
Okay, so let me just go to that slide. So it's Photoshop, yeah, Blender, Substance Painter, yeah, mainly Photoshop, Blender, and Substance Painter. Um, you undo the major 3D aspects from blocking out to detailing in Blender, then you undo the textures and colors in Substance Painter, and the wall refining and polishing is done in Photoshop. Yeah.
All right. I think you can also answer this because you've mentioned that you're a 3D artist and you create 3D, but Safari City is a 2D game. So how does that come together?
Yeah, so um depend okay, yeah, so it's also it's I would say it's dependent on the project. And Safari City as a building renovation game, it's easier to develop these buildings in 3D because you have like the whole setup that are realistic and yeah, acceptable. And so it's easier for you to develop in 3D than convert it to 2D. So it's just like I was explaining the whole process that you export each of these building parts and each of these building parts as a 2D image. So it's easier that way because than painting and trying to maintain perspective and trying to maintain a camera angle along the different properties. Yeah, it won't really be consistent if this is done via 2D alone. So being doing it in 3D basically gives you control over all that way. Yeah, it gives you control over all that, so you really don't have to think much on that, and you can focus on building, yeah, a property. And yeah, it's kind of technical transferring it to 2D for what the game needs, because at the point we were dealing with shadows in, yeah, I mean, making sure that the exported 2D parts have shadows in the game. And yeah, that was a really technical aspect because Blender doesn't necessarily give you the ability to transfer transparent shadows. So yeah, we did have to go through some composition and yeah to get the shadows in, yeah, as transparent pages. So but generally it's easier and a more better workflow going from 3D to 2D, and like I said, it's dependent on the projects. Yeah.
All right. Okay, thanks, Marvelous. Do we have any other questions? Corey has a comment. This is not a question, but he says, I didn't know about this, and it would be nice to see a day in the life of a designer so that he can see how they move around through the different phases. Marvelous. Question for you. You are designing an African game. So what does your approach look like to designing environments that are culturally authentic? So for example, you are based in Nigeria, right? And you can easily design structures that resemble Nigeria. So if you were to expand and start to develop different cities like Nairobi in Kenya or Johannesburg in South Africa, what does that approach look like so that you don't fall into the stereotypical view of how these cities look like?
Yeah, so I believe that every, let me say, African countries or every part in Africa, they have like the style and structure that is close to them. Yes, so in I'm pretty sure that the properties in Nigeria or the structure and the whole architecture in Nigeria are probably different from that in Kenya. So that is where reference gathering helps. So I do have a lot of images and pictures of buildings in Nigeria, for example, and yeah, there's that variation in the class and structure. Say from the mid-level house to the high-level house to the big mansions and all, and yeah, they have their similarities. But if I was to design a building and was to say design it for Kenya, I would gather references for a lot of buildings and the way their structure and architecture is in Kenya. And I believe by that there will be that understanding and oh yeah, that distinct structural difference between both properties. So it's basically just understanding through references and yeah, of course, through research, how a structure of a particular country is compared to the other. Yeah. So by that, I believe it's really easier not to just fuse everything together as African. Must have this distinctable architectures.
Okay, thanks for that. As a final question, Joseph is asking, in terms of career guidance, what general advice would you give? What has the industry taught you that you didn't know before getting your first job? And you can also answer this from the approach that you participated in the Game of Africa Bootcamp, the arts cohort. That was in 2023, I believe. So moving from
Yeah.
that and getting a job in the industry, what have you learned?
Okay, but I'll start with it's a gradual process and you don't just jump into it, yeah. So also you have to build up your skills, whether in 3D, 2D, programming, game design, you have to build up your skills and basically have projects that you can show off based on the learning you've done or stuff you've worked on. It could be game jam projects, it could be partner projects. Yeah, basically building your portfolio based on this. And yeah, when you have something to show off and you have these skills that you've built and refined, I believe it's easier for you to put yourself out there. And also, yeah, so basically, um, learn, build up, refine, and yeah, that will greatly help. Also, put out yourself, put out stuff you're learning. As who knows, anybody could see this and take interest in it. Also, I would say, yeah, it's proper. I mean, it's really beneficial to get feedback. So yeah, it could be feedbacks from your peers, feedback from people who are more advanced than you, and this will basically help you say from the portfolio or from the project wise standpoint to help you to refine and to basically get something that is more polished. And yeah, that will that people would enjoy and people would understand more. So basically, just put yourself out, build your skills, and yeah, it's a wider process.
And create a portfolio for the work that you do, Joseph. All right.
Oh,
Thank you so
yeah,
much. Thank you so
definitely.
much for the session, Marvelous. That was informative. At least it gives us a perspective of what it takes and how long it takes and how much effort goes into Safari City. We're going to move
Yeah,
on
thank you.
to the next showcase that we have today. So we've had from Marvelous, who is an artist, right? So what happens if you are a developer and you have to create this game that is art intensive and you need art assets for your game? What do you do? How do you make your workflow still efficient, and how do you get quality assets for your project? Up next we have Mohammed Yosri Zoremi, who is a Game of Africa 2024 alumni, currently in the Game of Africa Elite program, and also a student doing his final year in game development diploma at Goldsmiths University of London. Mohammed has been working on a project of late, and he discovered a way to be able to generate assets quickly, high quality assets that he can use for his project. And today he'll be showcasing how that workflow has looked like, what he has learned, and the insights that he has now on the role that AI plays or can play in game development. Welcome, Mohammed, and thanks for joining us today.
Welcome, Dorothy, and thank you very much for the amazing introduction.
All right, the floor is yours. Let me just put your slides up. Okay, there we go.
Okay, so thank you very much. As Dorothy said, my name is Mohammed Yusri Zuraini, and in this presentation, I'll try to get you through the workflow for generating 3D characters using AI and animating them. So this is mainly targeting developers who have little to no artistic background. So this is the whole thing. Like this is the all what you need to know. This is the workflow. We'll start with inspiration, then I will go inside the steps of modeling and animation and the advantages and disadvantages of each of these tools. So before we start, I'm just want to highlight that all the tools that will be mentioned here are totally free, like it's either AI tools or web services. So at least for now, they are free. So if you're watching this in the future, just keep that in mind. Also, I'm not saying that this is the perfect workflow to create a 3D character using an AI. This is a way to do it. So there is a space for improvement. Maybe better quality AI tools or for 3D modeling or shortcuts to this workflow, maybe. So the main objective of this is to share these AI tools with you, and in return, you share your knowledge and your AI tools and your experience trying to modeling these and animating them so that we all benefit from the experience. So as I said, it's mainly for developers or individuals with no artistic background on about how to model things, how to rig it, how to animate it, like stuff like that. I need something to get me up and running. And our on the other side, you should expect some sacrifices. So you're not talking about okay, just a minute. Okay. I'll just check my video. Okay. Can you see this now?
Hi, Mohammed. We can see your slides. What we can't see is your video. We can't see you.
Okay. Okay, just okay.
So your video is showing black. Just share your screen. It's fine. We can see the slides just fine. Awesome. We can see you now.
Okay, and what about the presentation?
Share them again.
No. Okay. Now?
Yes.
You can see them, right?
Yeah, we can see them.
Okay.
Just put it on full screen.
Okay. Okay. So now the slides are on.
Perfect. We can continue.
Okay, full screen. Okay, thanks. Okay, sorry for that. So I was showing this in the first place, the whole workflow, and I was getting you through the introduction. So what I was saying is that you should expect some sacrifices. So we're not talking about a triple A God of War, Assassin's Creed type of character. We're talking about something that is more than enough for a mobile game, especially if you're talking about something that maybe top-down view that the character will be not very close to the camera, so the player could be tolerant with some flaws in your model because you're doing it using AI. So without further details, let's go to the workflow. So first step is that you need some inspiration for your character, and as you know, you can get inspiration from anywhere. Like you can get it from a film, a novel that you read, a comic book, like anywhere, even from life. However, one of the tools that are there that I found that developers at Maliyo Games use, and they are really effective, is Pinterest. At some points, at some use cases, it can be even better than something like maybe Google Images, for example. So we were trying to get a character, to model a character that is for an African mama for a game that we're working on. So we opened Pinterest and tried to search for it, and we found this image. this image resembles something that we have in mind, but we can't use this image as is. We can give it to the AI modeling now. We need to do some modification. So what we need to do is that first, if I give this to an AI, a modeler, you will get a statue, like exactly what you can see, but in a 3D. The main objective is that you have a rigged character so that you can animate it. If you're not familiar with the rigging as an expression, it's something like creating a skeleton inside this character so that the software or Unity or whatever what you're using to animate knows where are the joints and how to move the different limbs. So this is the idea of rigging. So you need to let the AI know where the hands are and where the legs are and where the feet are. So there's something that's very popular in this is called the T-pose, where the arms are away and legs or feet are slightly away from each other. You can see this for any 3D character model or humanoid model. You might also need to change the clothes, like any items of the clothes, or even the colors of these of what the character is wearing. You might need to change the age group. You might add or remove items from the scene. Like for example, I want to remove this baby. I want it in my game. You might even want to change the body shape, like taller, smaller, something like that. So in order to change all of these, we need to create a different image. And in order to create a different image, we need a prompt so that we can modify this prompt and get the image that we want, but still keep the same spirit of this image. So what we will do now is that this is the first direct step in the modeling and animation. I went to a web service or a web AI tool called Image Describer. .online. There is a lot of AI tools and web services that do the same thing, but from experience, this is the best. So what does it do? So you upload your image here in the first part, and then you choose AI describe image in detail, and then you get your description, and there is a language here if you want to change it. What's good about it is that it doesn't need any login, so it's totally free without even login. But there is a 3 generation limit per day. There is also in this list, you can find something that's specific for Flux or something specific to Midjourney. So if you're already using one of these other image generation, you can get a prompt for exactly this tool. So this is a prompt that I got. This is the description of this image. It might seem like a lot, but it's actually what I like about it. It's very structured so that you know where you need to change. So for what is the structure in this first paragraph or line is the summary for the image. This second paragraph or the rest of these paragraphs are the detailed description. But even this is also structured. So the first paragraph in this detailed description describes the shape of the character and all the clothing. Then it moves to any accessories to this clothing. So you can see here a turban style head covering. You can see, so in different in other examples, you can see something like a hijab, a hat. You can even here see anything about the jewelry or tattoos, skin color, and even you can see the last line, she has a wide, genuine smile with visible white teeth. So even the expression of the character. This next paragraph, you will not see in all descriptions because it's mainly about something that is even extra in the scene. So something in the image, something like this baby here. Another example could be something that the character is holding in his hand or her hand, like a weapon or an element, a briefcase, something like that. So you will find this here. And finally, the last paragraph is about the background of the image and the general art style and the general feeling of the image. So now that you understand this structure, you can know where exactly to add or remove things. So for example, if I want to remove this baby from the image, I will just delete this line. If I want to say that, okay, I want to this character to be standing in a T-pose, I might add it in the first or the second paragraphs of the detailed description. So here you can add all your modifications and then move to the image generation. For me, I used Sora, and probably you're already familiar with it, but if you're not, it's Sora is the image generation tool of ChatGPT. It requires a login, yes. There is a limit for the number of image generation that you can do per day. I'm not sure like the exact number because at when ChatGPT 4 was there, it was about 4 or 5 generations per day. But now these images that you'll see in this slide, I created them in one day, so I'm not pretty sure how what is the limit now. So as you can see, this is the image that I created. I removed the baby. I told the AI that I wanted in the T-pose, so I get this image. It was pretty good for me. Like I can go take this to the modeling directly. However, something that you will talk about when we go to the AI modeling is that it's the way it limits the daily limits that the tool I used is through computations. So you don't need if you created something that requires a lot of computations, so you can't create several ones. So in other examples, if you're creating images, for example, you can create 5 or 6. If you're creating videos, you can create only 2. If you create a 3D model like this, you can create only 1. But this model, with this size of the image, was even beyond this daily limit of computation. Still, we're talking about something free. So I had to do something. I had to change the size of the character inside the image so that I get a smaller model, so that it could bypass this limitation of computation. But something that I discovered is that if you can see this little shadow under the character, this could be modeled. So you will get a character with this shadow model, like a piece of plane under it. So I had to remove it, and this is an art decision. We and my colleagues were really interested in faceless character, so we find that this is better for our game. Also, you need to know that the AI modeling is not very good at doing faces. You'll get your face, but if you are intending to animating this face and have facial expression, this might not be very good for this. After this, I had a problem with the third image is that the feet are too close to each other. So once you get this to the modeler, it doesn't recognize that these are two different parts, so two different limbs. So I told the AI, okay, I need another one, but with slight space between the 2 feet. So the way this is done, by the way, if you never used Sora before, is that you create you give them the prompt, it creates 2 images, and okay, this is better than this, or this is more closer to what you need. So you open this image and say remix. So I'm using everything that I told you before about this image and remix. So add this, remove this, and stuff like that. So you don't need to write everything from the beginning. At that point, we found that the colors are not doesn't have a very good contrast with the background of the game, so we had to change them. So I don't know if you remember the prompt. There are here, yeah, in that paragraph, this the yellow, orange, and green. So I had to change the yellow, orange, and green into other colors that you can see here. Then I discovered that okay, it doesn't have anything in her feet. So I told him, okay, just give it something in her feet that is from the same culture and has the same colors and the same texture as the whole clothing of the lady. And at that point, I got these two. So this is the first time that I show you the two results, because at that point, okay, these are two very satisfactory for me, but I had to choose between them. So I chose this one, and this is the final one. At that last point, the last step, I just decreased the space between the 2 feet a little bit, because this might end up of having a very long feet when you try to do the modeling. So we now have our image. Let's move to the model generation. One thing that you need to know is that any design of everything is an iterative process. So don't expect to get everything right from the get-go. And the point that I'm showing you all these images is try to let you know all the things that could go wrong, so that you can know exactly what's in mind, what you need actually to create from the get-go. But don't imagine that you will get it right the first. Any design is an iterative process. So if you didn't catch that there is some shadow in your image, the model will give you that, okay, there is something between the feet here that you can see. The second image here with the faceless character and the yellow clothes, you can find that the head cover had something like dangling. I didn't like that, so I had to change it. So yeah, until I reached this. So where this tool, the tool is Hanyuan, if I'm uh, spelling this correctly, 3D. So it's 2.1, and I use it inside a website called Hugging Face. If you're not familiar with Hugging Face is a popular website with the aim of democratizing the AI usage and the AI even creation of like creating AI agents. So you can find spaces, like this is called the space, for this tool that you can use online on this website without even worrying about do I have a GPU or not. Also, you can find at this website data sets. Like if you're creating an AI agent for something or training it to do something, you can find like a whole data sets that are filtered and ready to be used. So once you get to this space in Hugging Face, you need to generate a textured shape. So remember that it's textured because you can generate non-textured one. You need to remember to tick that you need to include the image in the export and to simplify the mesh. Here you can find the file types, and it doesn't support FPX. It doesn't export as FPX, and you will know in a minute why this is a problem. You can find something that's called GLP. And finally, here are the target face numbers. The default is 10,000. So you might decrease this to something between like 1,000 and 4,000 in order to get a better performance inside your game. But the less your faces are, the less the quality of your whole character is. So you have to strike a balance between this. So if you're doing something for a prototype, for example, like there's no a lot of game objects in your scene, so you can just leave it like that. But if you're going to the final product, you might reassess the number of faces that you have. So Hugging Face requires login. And as I told you before, this is it works. The limitation per day work in a different way. It depends on which space are you using or which AI are you using. So if you're creating images, different than creating videos or models. So the point is, if you have for one login, you can create only one 3D model. So if you are doing it for several models, you might need several accounts. So at that point, okay, we get our character. It's in GLB, but we need to go to another tool to change this GLB to FBX. It's another format for 3D models. For this, I use an online tool, a free online tool called Convert 3D to Convert 3D. Exactly the same, specifically the GLB to FBX converter. It's something online. It doesn't require login, so this is good news. But there is a limitation for 2 per days. Sometimes when you use private or incognito browsers, you might surpass this. But yeah, this is the limit, 2. So the question might be, okay, why are you trying to convert from GLB to FBX? Because the next tool, which is the rigging and animation tool, is called Miximo. It's from Adobe. And as you can see here, it's to upload your character. Like there is a characters up there that you can use and animate like directly and download and use in your game. So there are characters that are there. But if you're trying to upload your model, you need it to be in one of these 3 formats. So that's why I need to convert the GLP to FBX. If you are more experienced, if you have more experience about this, you can use any other 3D software, like even Blender, because it's open access. So this is maybe the easiest of them. 3D Max and Maya, like any of these 3D modeling software, you can use it to convert from GLP to FBX, but you need to keep in mind that you keep the texture inside the information of the file that you are exporting to. This just you need to keep this in mind. So Mixmo requires login. It requires an Adobe account. So if you already have one, you don't have to worry about that. And there is no limit to the creations and the animation and the characters that you can use. A bonus tip for that, if you're a student and have a student account, if you have a student email, you can use this to get 1 year free account in Adobe, like all the services of Adobe. But this is only for 1 year, and after that, you can get. You need to pay everything. Okay, so yeah, so here you can upload. If you can see in the right, there is a download button, and you can upload here your character, your file. So once you upload your file, you will find something like this. So this is your character now, and there are these small circles here that you need to move to your character. You can see here the guideline. You have to define where the chin is, the wrist, the elbows, the knees, and groin. So once you define these, and there is something here at the bottom called use symmetry. So once you move one of these two circles, the other is going the same distance from the line in the middle. So once you define all of these and click next, you find that this is your character, and there is a default animation that it makes sure that all the parts, all the joints are moving, so that you can judge. Okay, you like this or not? Get back, change these positions, and then get back to your character until you're satisfied. So you press next. You get your character and get you all these animations, and you can see here at the top left that there is a search if you're trying to search for a specific animation, and there's these animations are even grouped by these groups that you can see here, like combat or adventure or sport or stuff like that. And don't forget that there is characters in this website that you can use if you don't want to use your character at all. Then once you choose an animation, okay, that's it. You can have your animation and you can download it. When you try to download, you download it with the skin, and you can change the frame rates, frames per second, and the keyframes reduction if you want. And there is a format called FBX for Unity. So this goes directly to Unity. One thing that you need to keep in mind once you go to Unity is that when you import the asset in Unity, you will find that it is without any texture. So in the inspector, you need just to extract the texture and extract the material from the file. So once you click on these, the texture and the material will be created, and your character will be textured and ready to be used. So I hope this video is working. This is the final results of the character inside the game. So remember that this was just an idea, like we don't have anything about this character before. So once you see it in the game, it's really a really good feeling. So for this, I used two animations. One for the staying still. You can see it just looks at her fingers. And another animation, it's a walking animation, but it's a stationary, like it walks in place. So that I'm moving her here using the, I'm translating her position, but just the animation is done in place. So it gives that feeling. Another example that I would like to show here is another game that I was working on, and it's called Bread Quest: The Impossible Delivery. And what is really interesting about this is that for this game, I imported the model without any animation. I just rigged it, like I made Maximo define, okay, where the hands and where the arms and like the stuff that you just see, and just imported inside Unity and used a different technique called inverse kinematic. You probably might be familiar with it, in order to let Unity know where the hands should be during the scene, and where the legs and where the feet should be during the scene. So all these animation, if you can see here, so the animation of the character using the feet are following the pedal, and the hands are following the handbar of the bicycle. And at some point, you can even raise your hand and catch this tray of bread above his head. All these, like, I didn't create any animation. It's just Unity telling them, okay, at that point when I do this, just move the hands to that place. And this character was creating this exactly in the same way that I described in this presentation. So, final words about AI. There is uh, a lot of conversation about the AI these days. So people saying, okay, it will help people. Others says, okay, it will replace others. So in my opinion, like, what happens in me in this specific case is that it democratized the idea of the skill and asset creation. Definitely, I'm not creating something like something as Marvelous was explaining in the presentation before me, but at least I'm doing something. At least I'm not. I can create something. Also, it helped uh, fight or challenge something that I found when I was trying to find these assets, because there is a stereotyping and everything, like in movies and in books and everything. So this could be found also in asset creation. So if you try to find an African character, you will get some stereotypes of these characters. If you try to do this for Arab, for Egyptians, you probably will find pharaohs. So not all Egyptians are pharaohs, and we don't live near the pyramids and ride camels and walk in the desert all day. Like, we have modern cities and stuff like that. So in order to make sure that you we are not only like Maliyo Games trying to say that, okay, this is our culture, you need to know it, we need to get it to the world. We need also to have all these assets that represent us, like really represents what we are. So this is what I think AI could help uh, uh, challenge or help people do. So this is the final map where I summarize everything, all the tools, all the steps, and all the links, even the link to the game. If you'd like to try it, and let me know if you have any opinion about this. So this is my presentation. I hope it's helpful. If you want maybe a second part when we get inside Unity and do all the animation controller and adding stuff and doing the inverse kinematic, like all the stuff that I said, if you want something like this, if you find this useful, we can do this if you want. But yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, I'm ready, and thank you very much.
All right. No, thank you. This has been really, really interesting. It's great to see how much you can be able to do. And I think most of the conversations that we have with developers is, yes, I'm good at coding. Yes, I'm good at behavioral control. But my game doesn't look so good because I haven't found somebody to work with that does art, or I can't get the assets that I need. And I think looking at AI as a tool for helping you achieve the things that you want, as a tool for prototyping to easily view things before you can get to final production, it can be a great thing to harness. And I'm happy that you're structuring it in a very simplistic way. And somebody's able to trace from this I go to this. It's very stepwise and procedural. Thank you for that. It's been a wonderful presentation. Does anyone have questions or remarks for Mohammed? Anyone? All right. If you'd like to reach out to Mohammed, I mean, we're going to send out an after email. So you can either reach out to him on LinkedIn or Discord if you'd like to have a one-on-one just to see how that workflow looks like, especially in detail in Unity. That would be a great conversation to continue to have on Discord. All right. Thank you so much, Mohammed, for your time.
Thanks.
Okay. So this will mark the end of our sessions today. I hope you've had much to learn from Kara's session, proceeding to Marvelous, who's a 3D artist working on the 3D art in Safari City, and Mohammed, who is a game developer and experimenting, learning how to create his own assets in his games using AI tools. So as we get to the end of this, we'll be having the first ever mobile games industry event hosted in December 11th, and we're welcoming you to register. We'll be bringing in investors, developers, creators, and we're hoping to shine a light onto the African game industry and the landscape to the global stage. This will be an amazing event hosted in Lagos, Nigeria. So if you are or will be around Lagos at the time, please register. All information is under maliyo.com/conference. Our keynote speaker is the CEO of Subway Surfers. So that will be good to see in person and get to meet all these key players in the African games industry. We'd like to know what you thought of this event. If you'd like any other topics that are of interest to you or speakers that you'd like us to invite to these sessions, we'd love to know that so that we schedule our sessions to meet the needs that you have. We have this QR code on the screen. I'm also going to share a link on the chat that you can easily fill and let us know how this event went and what you'd like to be seeing more of during our meetups. I'm going to give you a minute just to scan and click the code before we continue. Here's a link as well to MaliyoCon conference. I'm hoping to see all of you there as we get to see the games and the products that are being created on the continent. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the October meetup. We're looking forward to seeing you again in November. Tell us on the feedback document what talks you'd like to see more of, which speakers you'd like to see more of. November will mark our last meetup of the year before we get to MaliyoCon in December, and then we'll resume next year in February. So thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening and see you next month. Bye-bye.